Let's make sure everything is set. Hi guys, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Let me open the chat. First of all, I'd like to ask you where you're tuning in from. Let me know your country, your city, maybe the role that you have, and I'll be watching for all your questions here. I also have Gabrielle there in San Francisco, ready to send more questions for me if you have questions and if I miss anything. Hey, someone from New Mexico, local Hodian, I don't know, like India. Hey, Reginald from India. Hey, Jason, good to see you here again. Jason from Costa Rica. We visited Costa Rica a while ago and you saw some of the early features back then, so thanks for all the feedback and loyalty and all the excitement around XD. All right, Jason is a graphic designer. Arizona or Hino, Nelson, Russia. Oh, we have people from all over the world. This is so cool. And again, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're tuning in from. My name is Demian Borba. I work on the strategic development team at Adobe, focused on XD. And today I want to show and talk about some of the awesome new features that we released at Adobe MAX. So Adobe MAX happened last week in Los Angeles. We had around 14,000 people together there. I think it's the biggest creative conference, really fostering creativity, and we saw so many amazing announcements there, not only with with XD but also with Project Rush, as part of, for example, if you're a YouTuber, you can create videos using Premiere Rush to post on YouTube, Instagram very easily. It's a new tool, and a lot more like Dimension, XD of course, and we're gonna see a lot of the new features in XD. New announcements on Photoshop, mostly on user flow, so you can do things faster. So you have Command and Control Z now in Photoshop. You don't have to press more keys. The default behavior for scaling elements in Photoshop is really it's proportional. If you scale, before you had to hold shift to get there. So a lot of old Photoshop users will have to unlearn the hard way, because now there's an easier way, and that's pretty funny and interesting. All right, we have Project Arrow as well announced there. We saw a lot of cool demos. So for XD specifically, this was the biggest release ever. We announced so many and as you know, we release every month. Every month there's a new update, but last week we announced a lot of stuff, and we're gonna go over some of them here. All right, I see people from Pakistan, Arizona. Let me know where you're tuning in from. And most of all, if you have any questions, feel free to send here. I'm here to be this direct channel to the XD team. So as part of the XD team from the very beginning, I'm here to answer your questions, to connect, to share your feedback with the team. So more than just me throwing content at you, I'd like to invite you to send questions, send feature requests. Maybe it's the first time you're seeing XD in a long time. Maybe it's the first time ever that you're seeing XD. Please share your feedback. This is a direct channel to the XD team. All right. As you can see in the chat on Facebook, we are the sessions are live already. There's a link there. You can see it. Lisbon. Vladislav is asking if we'll add horizontal scrolling. We're working on that functionality. One thing that's possible now is you can do dragging. So you can create a horizontal, let's say, carousel that you can move by clicking and dragging. And I'll show you a little bit of that today. All right. Yeah, Jason is there since the very beginning. Hello from Brazil. Oi, Thiago. I'm from Brazil as well, so it's also awesome to see people from Brazil here. London. All right. India. Questions about rulers. We have rulers, of course, in the backlog. It's a big request there in user voice, but you can do so much already with not only the the layout grid or the square grids in XD, but you can also use some plugins, and plugins is also something that we announced last week, and there's a lot of good stuff there. All right, I think we're ready to get started. Again, I'll be watching for questions here. If you have any feature requests, constructive feedback, feel free to share. I'm here for you guys. All right, so let me switch to my screen and start the stream. All right, very cool. All right. So for the ones that are new to XD, I'd like to encourage you to check xd.adobe.com. There you can see not only some of the features that you can use, but you can download XD for free. There's a free version of XD that has 90% of the features. The only piece that's not free is the ability to create multiple links for prototypes and multiple links for design specs as a web link. But everything that's desktop based, mobile based is the same level, has the same level of features. So you can create as many XD documents as you want. You can work with all that, and then the only difference again is when you create a link to get feedback, you can only use one link. And we see a lot of people using the same link and reusing the same link to get things done. All right, so xd.adobe.com, make sure you download it and you give it a try. And again, if you have feedback, feel free to share with us. We are always looking for feedback. We love feedback since day one. And all right, cool. So I'd like to share a couple resources with you before we show the features. So the first one is adobeXD.uservoice.com. Here's the place for you to share any feedback, any feature request, file bugs for us. And the product team comes here and updates the status. For example, we know that tap and hover is something that is in the backlog, and 450 comments. Before this one, we had micro interactions, the ability to animate elements within the same artboard. That's now shipped, it's out there, so it's now marked as feature completed, and everyone who voted on that feature for micro interactions, actually I think there were more than almost 5,000 votes there. 5,000 people got the notification that the feature was there, their feedback was really used and informed a lot of the discussions there. So you can see more features. Another big one that's coming next year is the ability to import videos and GIFs. If you support that feature, make sure you add that. Guides is another one that's always requested. We don't have guides in XD yet. We have layout grids, we have square grids, but we have also the plugins called Guide. And I'll show you that, and that creates a couple guides and gutters, and not only horizontally but also vertically. So that's there. So a lot of the features that you asked that are here in User Voice are now available via plugins, and that's a great way for us to test the water, see how you guys use the features. Another one is for all caps, lowercase. There's a plugin there in XD that helps you do that. So this is all reaction to the feedback that we're getting. Design with data, same thing. There's a plugin for that, and I'll go over this with you guys. All right, so let me see if I have more questions here. Let me see if everything is fine. We are live. Questions so far, so good. All right. Again, and feel free to share questions as we go. Okay, another link that I'd like to share with you is this one. So I personally delivered 3 labs at MAX, and it was a lab, an hour and a half lab focused on XD, and it was design thinking using XD, not only like just mobile, but also like websites. It was the whole design thinking exercise from idea all the way to testing, and I wanted to share that not only for people to go through the lab. So I created this a series of links that you can use, but I also encourage people that want to deliver a workshop focused on XD. You are free to download the files. You can, one thing that I did, I recorded a video of the entire workshop, so an hour and 20 minutes. If you go to bit.ly/xd-workshop-video, here you can watch the entire workshop, you can download the files, and if you want, you can go there and deliver at your company, at a meetup, add your touch to it, change the design, change everything you want there, and deliver it. This is something that I created to help you guys not only get used to XD, but also share with your friends, with your community as a workshop. So the files are here, you can download, and I used XD to deliver the slide that you're seeing. And the funny thing is that as I was presenting with Ainsley and Val and Max, we were getting feedback here as comments. So this is another great way of using XD. You can create some slides like I did here, share a link, and then share a link as you start presenting, and then people can give you comments as you go. Another resource that I had, I just published 2 new courses at lynda.com for XD, and this is more like in-depth, like all the features in depth for design mode and then prototyping and sharing. And I think there's a free 1-month trial here for XD, so you can download and see it. All right, but again, I highly encourage you to check the workshop and deliver at your city. And if you have feedback as you play with it, please let me know, and that would be wonderful. Cool. Let's see if we have more questions here. No questions. So far, so good. Just good words. All right, cool. So let's get started here. So the first thing that I'd like to share, let me make sure I capture everything, is there's a blog post, and you can get to our blog to see all the new features that got released. Andrew and Danny, they wrote this amazing post that's there, and you can see all the new features that are there. But I want to go through one by one, maybe at least the main ones. I feel like I have to spend so much more time to cover all the new features. It's kind of, almost like impossible to do it in 30 minutes. All right, so the first one is the ability to open Illustrator files in XD. So I wrote a post, and you can find the blog post here on some examples and how things work in XD when you move from Illustrator to XD. And before this, we had the ability to open Photoshop files and Sketch files in XD. You just go to File, Open it, and you open the file, and all the symbols and all the layers, they come across perfectly. And now we have the ability to open Illustrator files in XD. And this is great because we know a lot of people use complex vectors such as icons. And in my post here, I highlighted Streamline Icons. It's a collection of more than 30,000 icons that you can download. And the way we created XD files to keep the high fidelity and precision is that we just opened the Illustrator files, the best vector tool out there, and then we converted them into XD documents. So super easy, super powerful. So that's the first feature that I'd like to highlight here. The other feature that I'd like to highlight, and I'll use my workshop file here, my start file, and as you can see here, I have the slides that we presented. We talked about design thinking, and then we started talking about the project. And here we had a place within your slides to link to the prototype, to link to the website. And this is great because you can do, let's say you're presenting something, a prototype to a customer, to a client. You can go like through slides, and then once you get to the slides, you can go to the prototype within the same flow. So you don't have to switch to a different tool. Let's say a presentation tool to a prototyping tool. It's all within the same flow. So XD is great for presentations as well. And talking about linked symbols, the idea is, let's say I have my high fidelity design here that I want to continue to design, but I need some buttons. And I have these buttons in a separate file. Let's find that, and I'm calling it pattern library.xd. And here, as you can see, this is just a set of buttons and my colors, almost like my mini design system. So let's say I want to use these 2 buttons. I can copy, go to my document, and paste. And as soon as I paste, you see that they come, but they come as a linked symbol. So there's a green icon on top left there showing me this is linked to another document. And then if I need to make changes to it, let's say I get feedback and I'm using this in multiple documents, I need to change this, I can go to that original document, I can edit in source document, and then I get there, and then here I can go and let's say I change this from pink to black based on feedback, and I also change it here. And as soon as I save and I get back to my document, you can see that I get a blue icon now saying this is changed. There's an update to this icon. If I open my assets panel here on the bottom left, you can see that 2 buttons changed, right? And they're blue, and I can hover here to get a preview of the change. If I go to grid view here, I can see it better. I just hover and I see a preview. And then if I click to update the 2, this will go here and pull the changes. So I can preview and pull the changes. So this is a great way for you to, let's say, store an XD document with all of your components in one place. Then you can copy and paste into your documents. We did a lot of validation, and we validated that people copy and paste a lot more than going through a library and all that. They like to copy and paste and start using right away. And a couple of improvements here. As I hover in the future, you'll be able to see the preview here on your actual design, something that will land later, but something that we're working on. And then if for some reason I undo this and I save, I can get back here and update again, so I can pull the changes again. So linked symbols, very, very powerful, now available in XD. Let me see if I have questions. No questions, just positive feedback. Dave, pressing V to use is very unintuitive. I understand it's an Adobe thing, but you should improve rather than stick to legacy behaviors. Dave is sharing that feedback. So how would you like that to work? Pressing V to use the selection tool. Would you always have the selection tool on? And we validated that like way back, and I remember a lot of the discussions that we had is that that's more of the Mac way of doing things. I think Sketch does that. As soon as you stop using a tool, it goes back to the selection tool, which is useful in most cases for that, but we validated and we decided to go this route. But again, if you want that change, feel free to share that in user voice, create a feature request there, and if it bubbles up, we'll look at it. We'll find ways to bring that functionality to you to make sure you can succeed. All right. Hey Scott, good to see you here. Scott Purdue. I missed you at Max, but I saw you were there, so thanks for all the feedback. You and Jason are always here sharing feedback. That's amazing. All right, so that's linked symbols. The next one that I'd like to show is plugins. So we not only plugins, but we announced if you are a plugin developer and you know JavaScript, you can start developing plugins for XD very, very easily. I think the link is, if you're interested, let me get Adobe XD platform.com, and here you can learn a lot about plugins and how to not only use famous plugins, useful plugins, but you can also learn how to develop plugins. And there's also a fund, a $10 million fund, that if you're a plugin developer and you're tackling a big challenge and you have a nice plugin, you can apply and then you can get funding to develop your plugin. So that's there for you. AdobeXDplatform.com for plugins. Cool. Back to our XD document, talking about plugins. So I'd like to show a couple plugins. I don't want to spend too much time here because I know you guys are crazy busy, but if you have feedback as we play with this, this is an example during the workshop where we collected 96 ideas for this design thinking project. And here I have one element and then another element and another element, so 2 text elements and 1 shape. Then if I use the repeat grid, Command R or Control R on Windows to create more elements. Let's say I want to create a lot of elements here, and you can get to, like I said, we were able to get to 96 ideas. Let me zoom out very quickly and I'll create a lot of elements here. Cool. So here I have a lot of elements, and if I open my layers panel by going to the bottom left here, you can see I have a repeat grid, and inside this grid I have idea number, a layer named idea number, and another layer named idea and the text elements, and then the rectangle in the back. So now that I have these guys here, one thing that you can do to bring content is you can type one by one, idea number 1, and you can type one by one, and this will take time, right? But you can override, and then all the changes you make to the grid are reflected throughout the whole grid, which is very, very powerful. But you can also bring content from a text file, and I have a text file here that you can find on that link the workshop link, I have a text file with 96 ideas, and I can drag this text file up there, and then I get all the ideas. Each line on that text file goes to a separate card, but then I don't have another text file. I would have to have another text file with the numbers 1, 2, 3 to get there. So again, text files are useful, but you'll be a lot better if I could use, for example, a CSV or a Google Sheet, and there's a plugin for that, an amazing plugin for that. So I can select that repeat grid, and I'm gonna undo this just to show you. So I have a very clean repeat grid, and I need to populate with my ideas. And I have here in my folder structure a CSV file that has the label idea number, kind of mapping and matching the layer name that I had there, and then idea as another column, and all the ideas are here. So it's a CSV, more realistic, and you can bring content that way. So with the layer, with the repeat grid selected, I can go to plugins, Google Sheets, and I'm gonna load a CSV. Then I point to that CSV, assets, copy. So my copywriter dropped it here, it's all there. Then I can hit open, and it matches, it tries to map the layer name with the column there in the CSV, and then I hit apply, and then all the numbers flow here and all the ideas flow here. Amazing, very, very useful. And if you want to learn more about plugins or find more plugins, you can click here on plugins, discover plugins. You can see a lot of very nice plugins. I have a lot of great plugins that I use all the time. Google Sheets, as you saw, and the Google Sheets one is very powerful for another example here. So let's say I have this guy here, which is a website design, and this area needs content. So I need not only text, but I also need my images. And I have a Google Sheet that I will show here that has all the content for text and links to images. Links to images, it has to be HTTPS, the new standard for protocols here in the web, and it has to be public. That's it. So now that I have this link here in memory, I can go to my repeat grid, select this guy, and just to prove I'm not lying, you can see this repeat grid has a title, a description, all there ready to get content. So I'm gonna select that, plugins, Google Sheets. I'll paste a public link now. Continue. This again will match the layer names. I can change if I want. And then if I hit apply, this will bring not only the text, but also the images. The images are coming from that Google Sheet directly to your design. And then if your copywriter changes, let's say development, changes this to something else, I can select that, Google Sheets, refresh content, and then it will pull that change right here. So very easily I was able to not only pull once, but I can make changes. My copywriter can say, hey, the Google Sheet is changed. I can then pull and just refresh the content. Pretty useful, amazing feature there. So that's plugins, and we have more plugins, like one that I mentioned there is guide to add guides. One that I really like is rename it. So if you have to rename multiple elements at once, add variables like 1, 2, 3, 4, it's created by Rodrigo, amazing developer, one of the most famous plugin in other tools, and now it's available here in XD. And the last one that I like to show that I really like is if you work in a company that is creating content for multiple languages. Let me find something that has nice content. So I'm gonna copy this, create a new document. I'll paste this. Let's say I have this artboard. This was the redefinition of our design challenge, and I want to create the same artboard with multiple languages. And up until now, you have to do this manually, use Google Translate manually, and it's painful, especially if you have, I don't know, like if you support, we know that Airbnb, for example, a big customer of ours, they have dozens of languages, if not hundreds of languages that are supported, and they need to create this kind of content for the app stores and all that. So now with that artboard selected, I can go to plugins, World Ready, that's the name of the plugin. I can see where it breaks if I want, like it will highlight the the error showing that my string would break. Like I would need to increase the error tags for that. But let's say I want this in German, in Spanish, and Brazilian Portuguese because I'm from Brazil. Then I can hit translate and translate. So now that plugin will duplicate the artboards. That was super fast. This is German, this is Spanish, and this is Brazilian Portuguese with one click. So very, very useful plugin, and you can move super fast with plugins. There's a lot of amazing plugins out there. I'm sure we're gonna see a lot more plugins landing, but that's there. All right, let me see if I have questions. Let's see here. There's a bug when you try to move your layer above or below the other layers. The XD stops responding and there's no option but to restart it. I started experiencing this issue after the last release. Can you make sure you file that bug, Zariab, on user voice under bugs? If we can reproduce that, we're gonna tackle it, and thanks for finding that. And we're gonna fix that ASAP if we can reproduce that. All right, I'm seeing some questions from Gabriel here. Let me see very quickly if I'm not missing anything. All right. Oh, Rakesh is asking, will this linked symbol work with Dropbox or Google Drive source? Yes, any source, it's the same functionality. It's just accessing that file. If I change the CSV, will this update in XD? Yes, if you choose to refresh it, as I showed here. Jonathan is asking, can we translate from English to Portuguese? Yes, I just did that. Zaria, there's a bug. We just talked about the bug. Can you show the map plugin, Martin? What do you mean map? Like the flow, the overflow plugin for mapping, for creating journeys? If that's the case, let's. I mean, like, I feel I need so much more time to talk about all the new features in XD, and I still want to show you 2 more before we finish. All right, so let's do that. So I'm using that file again. Let me find something that I can use here. All right, so one of the top feature requests that we had was the ability to have the ability to animate elements within the same artboard, and we call them micro interactions. And that was there for a while in user voice, over almost 5,000 votes there. It was a big one. So technically, what you want to do is, let's say I have a button here, and I will change the color to get that XD pink. No border. Let's say I have a button, and what I want here is, as soon as I tap on this button, I want it to take over the entire screen. I want to create a behavior that it grows to occupy the entire screen. So the way this new functionality works is you just have to select your initial artboard, your start state, duplicate. I'm using Command D or Control D on Windows to duplicate the artboard. Then the same element is here, at least it has the same name. It could be a different element with the same name, and if it's a shape, XD will morph to that if they have the same name. So here I have my start state and my end state, and that's it. Now I go to prototype mode, and what I want is, as soon as I tap on this button, I want to go to this artboard, and instead of being a regular transition, I want to auto animate it. And is out, let's do 0.6, that's good enough. Then I can open my preview window here, and boom, it occupies the entire screen. And then if I go here and I go back to that initial artboard, I can create that scenario where it grows and shrinks, so animating elements within the same artboard. I have a document here that if you download the workshop files, and if you look under, where is it? If you look under XD files extra, one that I added there is called autoanimate.xd, and here I have a bunch of examples that you can do with XD. So I'll show you the examples. So this is the first one that we just did. I have another one down here where here I have a group, and as you can see I have a group that's here, and the same group here moved to the left, and I also have this little guy here that's now on the right, so it would move. And when I test this, I can create this tab behavior very easily in XD. Another functionality that we have, another trigger that we have, I use there as a tap, but you also have the ability to add a trigger as, let me get to it, as drag. So another trigger, tap, another one, drag. So to go from one artboard to another, I can tap, but I can also drag, and if I let go before the end of it, before half of it, it resets the beginning, and if I pass half of it, then it finishes the animation. So I can not only do tap, but I can also do dragging. So this would be that, to answer that question on horizontal scrolling. It's possible to simulate that with dragging, especially if it's mobile, because you would need to drag. This is another example where things expand and collapse. This is another example where I'm mixing drag, sorry, not drag, I'm missing tap, time, and auto animate. So I click on this button, it jumps to the second artboard, and as soon as it lands there, it will play this based on time. So the trigger is time, so it takes me to another artboard, and it will reveal this blue line, and then when it finishes, you will go to this artboard. So let's do that. So I'm gonna click, it's now playing, and then it jumps to the finished line. So very powerful if you mix different triggers. This is another example where I want to simulate a loading behavior. So it's going from artboard 1 to artboard 2 using time as a trigger, and then if I click on stop, it goes to the third artboard. Then if I choose restart, it goes back to the beginning, because time is a trigger that it keeps switching from one artboard to another. And the last one that I mentioned is drag. So you can have this scenario where you can drag, create a slider, and a little trick that you can do here, I have a mask. So I have a mask, a little rectangle with night and day, and then if I move this to this side, going up and animating within that mask, I can not only drag, but I can have this nice behavior. And you can find the file there in the document to play with it. And then drag, another very cool example. I let go and it finishes that. And the last one, more like realistic, is if I have, let's say I have this scenario, I want to simulate, I'm tapping to animate to that finished state, so I'm simulating how my website would work responsively. And if I go here as a little trick, let me undo this based on tap, and I will do something very quickly. I can click here, and let's say I want to show how the elements will change for a developer to see. So I'll copy this and I'll paste on this artboard. Again, the same element with the same name. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to prototype mode, and to go from this artboard to this one, this will be a drag, and I'll do snap, so it snaps as I let go, and from this one I'll do a drag as well. So that's it. With two artboards, I can now go to my developer and say, hey, this is how I'm clicking and dragging, this is how my responsive resize will work, and he or she can play with it and see how you want your responsive resize to work. Cool, so that's there for you. Auto animate, amazing feature. And the last feature that I want to show, something that is really impressive, the first tool that's doing that is the ability to prototype with voice. So let me make sure things are working. I just want to double check the sound so you guys can hear. Yes, output, perfect. So let's say I'm here on this artboard, and what I want is, as soon as I tap on that little button, I want to display this card. So let me test that. And here in this moment, what I want is create a prototype triggered by voice. So I want to prototype a voice experience. And this is a project to search for things to learn. And in this case, I want to learn about surfing. So what I can do here is I can go to this prototype, to this artboard, and then as soon as I have that element, I can say I want to go to that artboard, but the trigger to take me there will be voice. And the command is, let's say I'm searching for surfing. And then you'll take me to that artboard, and let's do a slide left as a transition. Cool. So whenever I say on that artboard, whenever I say surfing, it will take me to that artboard. And if I want different commands, I can have more elements here. So every, let's say I want I don't know, like cooking as another, I can create another element here. Maybe it's hidden, so I can have conditional prototyping based on voice, and I can go to different scenarios based on voice. So let's see that in action. So I'm here with that prototype. I want to tap on this mic icon, go up. So now if I press the space bar, or I press on mobile, if I'm testing on mobile, I can say something. So I will say surfing. Come on, internet. Let's try that again. Surfing. Demo gods, come on. Let's see. Surfing. Scroll. Voice will just be a regular transition. Let's try that again. Surfing. I don't know, maybe my internet's not working. Just demo god's not working. It works, I promise. It's my internet that has something weird. But whenever I land on this artboard based on that trigger, what I can say is, whenever I land here, I want to use time as a trigger and play something back. So I would say, here is surfing and a couple of more options for you. So let's say as soon as I land on this artboard,
here is surfing and a couple of more options for you.
It plays that. So let's give it one more try. I just want to make sure I'm not doing anything wrong. Let's try that again. Surfing.
Here is surfing and a couple of more options for you.
It worked. It was the internet. But it works, and you can record that interaction. You can show that with stakeholders and prototype with voice. So again, this is the first tool out there that allows you to prototype and validate, if you test with users, voice-based interactions. So a lot of amazing features there announced as part of XD 13, our October release, and we're gonna have more updates coming soon, so feel free to share more feedback as you go. And let me see if I have questions here. So Agnes is saying, how does it work on mobile? So you just press to talk to the device, and then you work the same way. Long press. All right, let's see here if we have questions. Can you provide, Franklin says, can you provide this XD demo file for the public? I'm interested in all of these examples. Yes, Franklin, again, all of these examples are available here. Where is that? As part of the workshop. So again, I encourage you not only to use the workshop to learn. So I recorded the entire workshop on YouTube. It's here, and the link is right here, and you can see the link also in the comment section. And I also encourage you to deliver the workshop to your community, to your teammates, so you can influence more people, show the benefits of XD. And as you do that, if you capture feedback, please write it all down and send it our way. We love feedback, as you can see, since day one. All right, so I'm way past my time. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks for all the feedback. We're here on Twitter, so if you tweet anything with hashtag Adobe XD, the entire XD team can see it and will respond. And again, we love feedback. Feel free to share more, share feature requests and bugs here in User Voice. And until next week, I'll be back next week, 11 a.m. Pacific time, to talk more about maybe sneak something, maybe focus more on a specific area of the announcement that we had. Maybe one thing that we can show is the ability now to export to After Effects, so you can export your designs to After Effects and preserve all the layer structure. It's all there. And maybe we can do a validation exercise. So let me know on Twitter what you want to see next. This is really for you guys. Thanks a lot for your time, and I'll see you next week. Bye.